Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. We're going to have a show all about land investing, and land investing's always been intriguing to me. I have flipped some lots in the past. I wouldn't say I really had a good strategy on it. I was just buying rural properties in a little rural area in Southern California, and they just seemed like good opportunities. I was picking them up for like $1,500 and flipping them for like $7,500, and it seemed great. And I've always wanted to figure out like a strategy that resonated with me. So this episode will be for you, but it's also for me because I've got a lot of questions in the space. Please welcome Brent Bowers to the show. He's a former veteran and he was Army officer. He's also a coach. He teaches others how to get into land investing. We're going to dive deep on strategy today, and we're going to hopefully give you some tips that will put your land investing. If it's been on your radar too, like mine, maybe we're going to walk through some ideas that's going to pop out and say, yeah, you know what, it is a good opportunity, especially right now with the recession looming and real estate prices, when land becomes that asset where people just want to get rid of. And I think that's what we're going to talk about how to find it, how to fund them, and how to flip them, and all the strategies in between. So please welcome Brent to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Beau, thanks, man, for having me, and congrats on your success with buying those lots for $1,500 and selling them for $7,500. You talk about that so humbly, but that would change some people's lives, and that's what land did for me. So, so many years ago.
All right, so let's get started and just kind of dive deep, like your first, how you stumbled into land and your first couple of deals, and then we'll kind of progress through the evolution of like what you do today and some actionable tips that we might have, and then where we can follow you. And because I'm sure people will get excited about this, because what I like about this is it seems like a low barrier of entry as far as money, right? We can all afford $5,000 or $1,000 or $5,000 as opposed to putting down $200,000 on a luxury flip or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it pretty good on the intro. I appreciate that. I was an Army officer, and before Army officer, I was enlisted and had multiple deployments under my belt to Afghanistan, and was out of the country for a couple of years. But before that, in 2007, I got my real estate license and bought a rental property pretty much the first week I had my license, because I actually thought I had to be a real estate agent to start investing in real estate. I just knew I wanted to be in real estate. And my first several properties were actually rental properties. And it was a struggle owning these properties and just learning the whole game of how to find the best renter, how to manage property from overseas, which was a whole nother level. But fast forward several years to where I became an Army officer. It's about 2015. We just moved across the country to Fort Carson, Colorado. I am working like 13-hour days. I have a newborn at home. I leave before the baby wakes up. Home after he goes to bed. And I really just had no life, to be honest with you. And I had another deployment I was training for. We were in the field. I actually moved my wife and my baby across the country so my wife could have some support, because we were now pregnant with our second baby. And it was just, things weren't going the way I wanted them to. I was set financially as far as everything was taken care of, but I was on the at the beck and call of the military. And we talk about the family life. I have a sick one at home right now, so she's standing in the background. But I was not liking where things were going, and I had already been divorced once because of what the military, just had me on a schedule where I was always gone. And that's no way to have a family life or a marriage. So I did not want history repeating itself. So I started looking into courses and real estate investing courses and how to wholesale houses, how to build a business doing it. And, that was going okay, but I was trying to do this while working 13 hours a day with the military, while in the field, while spending tons of money on marketing. And oh, by the way, I was going in debt, like huge amounts of debt. And I was like getting a new credit card just so I can send mail. And I heard a guy in it was late 2015, after I'd wholesaled a couple houses, paid the debt off and was about to start the cycle again. I heard a guy talking about land and how he'd buy it for like $1,500 and flip it overnight for 3 times what he paid for it. And I was like, that seems too good to be true. Like your story, what you just said, Beau, like that was too good to me to be true, because if I would have to mail a bunch of house owners like 5,000 postcards and pray the phone rang, and then go meet with them and sit on this crusty couch. And it was some nasty houses I was going through. And then I wouldn't have time to follow up and I'd miss out on the deal. But I heard this guy talking about the land he was buying, like auction. And I was like, well, I have a list of people that are behind on their taxes for land, and I should just mail them. So I took immediate action that night and sent out 687 handwritten postcards. I did not handwrite them. They look like they're handwritten. It was a company called 3D Mail that I used to send them. And my phone started ringing like literally like a week later. And all the sellers were just really pleasant to speak with. And the first guy, you talk about the first deal, the first guy was a retired CPA. He's like, yeah, man, I'm like 3 years behind on taxes. I traded this land for some tax work many years ago. I've been paying the taxes for almost like 20 years now. It's yours. Just give me like $285. And I was like, whoa, what's the catch? Well, the catch was it wasn't buildable, blah, blah, blah. I went and looked at the land. It was about an hour away from me. And I called the real estate office down the street from the land because I had no clue what it was worth. And the realtor was very familiar with the area. And she's like, look, you could probably list it for about $10,000, because I wanted to know the blowout price. Like, because $285 is not a lot of money, $285, but I had groceries to buy. I had the mortgage payment. I had diapers. And I was like, I don't want to just waste this money. So she told me maybe 10,000 you can list it for and get it in like 30 or 45 days. I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, there's no way this could be this easy. Well, she calls me back like 5 minutes later and offers to buy it from me for 5,000. And I said, sure, send me the purchase agreement. Well, she bought it a week later from me, or roughly, it wasn't even a week later. It was Saturday when I talked to her. She bought it on Wednesday. I paid for it on Tuesday. So that $285 turned into $5,000. And I just kept rinsing and repeating, and it just turned into a multi-facet and seller financing where we have about almost 100 notes now paying us every month for land. So that's the whole intro. Super long, but I was trying to give you the high points.
No, that's awesome. All right, so let's kind of talk nuggets right now. So what do you teach as far as what do you coach on? Where's like, okay, I have a little bit of investing background in land, a lot in real estate, and I do financing for a living, so I'm fairly savvy when it comes to real estate, not land. Where's the low hanging fruit here? Are we doing? Should we be mailing to people delinquent on taxes, all that stuff? Where would you suggest we start? Like in your coaching program, do you have like a ongoing coaching program where you teach these strategies?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. And I just re-recorded the entire course, and it's not an educational course. It's more of an instruction manual. Like, here's what you do now and take this step and you'll get the small win, the result, and the results turn into the education. But yes, so a lot of counties are getting really hard to get this tax delinquent list. I'm starting to see counties like charge like $800 for this list. And I'm just like, whoa, this stuff was all free years ago, like several years ago. And the counties are catching on, like, and they're now getting profit from this because they just export their Excel file and make like $800. It's like amazing profit for them. But so now where I recommend people start is go on Redfin, go on Zillow, and I want you to go to the solds tab. I want you to look at what's sold in the last like week or two, or maybe 30 days. And go to the home type and select vacant land or lots and land, whether you're on Zillow or Redfin, and just look at what's selling in the last 30 to 45 days. And that's how you're going to pick your playground, pick your market you want to go into. Because here's the thing, I could go get great deals in the middle of nowhere, but if land's not selling there, I don't really want to be there because I can get this great asset, which is land, at a crazy discount, but it might be hard to sell it. But if I go where the demand's at, I can become an order taker. So that's the first way I recommend, is finding your playground. And I really liked it for it to be like within a couple hours from where you currently live, because the first several, it's really cool to get your feet on the land. It's way easier to sell something you've seen before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'd rather have it close where I could, put up a for sale sign or whatever I wanted to do. So on your dispositions, do you typically, so a lot of the times you're doing seller finance because they're going to pay your price and then you're going to collect payments. You have about 100 notes that you're collecting on right now. So you build that residual cash flow. So is the model to almost get like whatever you paid cash for to get that as a down payment and then the rest is payments? It's all gravy. Is that kind of the theory behind it?
I swear you're reading my mind, Beau. Yes. In the beginning, I had to get my money out of it. Like, for instance, the second deal I did the next week, I paid $500 for that piece of land. God, I wish I would have kept that one. I paid $500 for it. And this woman that sold it, her porch was like bigger than my entire like yard. She was very wealthy. She just didn't want it anymore. And so I put a little ad on Craigslist that night when I got home, and it just said $500 down, $400 a month. So I got my money back out of this property like the next day. Someone brought me $500 down. It was cash. I don't do those anymore. I now have it set up on a system that like pulls the money out of their bank accounts. But yes, that was the system in the beginning. Now that I've got a lot of inventory, we've built up the cash. Some of these we've wholesaled, like by getting the property under contract, like assigning the contract to build up our bank account, because I didn't start out with really any money. So I had to figure out a way to wholesale some of these, flip some of them. Some I went in partnership with friends and family members that would loan me the money. We'd split profit. But yes, the original play was to get my money back out of the deal. Do I do it now on every deal? No, I'm just more on a volume game. I want to get it sold. It's really easy to sell something for like, $1,000 down and $300 a month.
And do you sell them usually on like a land contract so you can easily take them back if they don't pay?
Yes, I do. I do a contract for deed or a land contract. And here's a tip for anybody listening to this. Use a foreclosure attorney to write your land contracts, because these foreclosure attorneys really know what they need to put in these contracts for each particular state, not just a real estate attorney, but a foreclosure attorney. Now, some of these I do sell with real estate agents, and we'll go through like a total, like, what do you call it? Title insurance company, where I have to actually sell it on a deed of trust and a promissory note, like actually a mortgage. But I usually get more money down for those. And another tip is, the more money you collect down, the less likely that buyer will stop paying for that land or just throw their arms up. So we learned that in the beginning, like doing these low money down deals, people will default on them. We're down to about 1 out of every 15. So every 15 parcels of land we sell, we take about 1 or 2 back.
And then there's a good kind of servicing tool that you use that just basically debits them via ACH. Is that what you use? Like kind of like what we do to collect rent. There's all these platforms. There's a platform we could to have them register. So then the contract for deed, that doesn't necessarily need to get recorded, or what does that look like?
I don't record them unless the buyer asks me to. And, some states might require that. I'm not currently in any of those states. But yeah, if your foreclosure attorney recommends that, definitely do it. And yeah, I use easynotetracking.com to track my notes. It costs me like $100 a month. And here's what's really cool is the buyer pays for that. One thing I didn't do in the very beginning was I did not charge a note service fee. And now I charge $20 per note. Like, for instance, if you bought a piece of land from me, Beau, and you put, $5,000 down and you pay me $300 a month for the next 30 years, I charge you $20 a month to take care of that note servicing fee. That helps me pay the note servicing company. It helps me pay my accountant, my bookkeeper, my CPA. All those really add up.
Yeah, that's smart. And then how do you determine the term? Is it based on purchase price and down payment, or do you is there a strategy behind that?
A financial guy, you're probably not going to like my answer, but honestly, if someone can afford a down payment and a monthly payment, I will work with them on an affordable monthly payment. I honestly, here's the thing. The first like 20 of these I did was only like 1-year terms. And then I went to 18 months and my cash flow got almost $40,000 a month at one time in payments. Well, guess what happened in 12 months? A lot of them paid off. And I was like, oh, shoot, my income, what the heck happened? Well, then I started looking at the power of 30-year amortized mortgages and like, okay, every city, every state, the banks are the biggest, prettiest buildings. Why is that? And I was like, how do the banks make so much money? Then I started looking at like a $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest paid over 30 years. Like we would pay back over $420,000 on a $200,000 loan at 6% interest for 30 years if we'd never refinanced. And I was like looking at that, I was like, that is not 6% interest. And then I started noticing it's like, okay, it's 22 years on an amortization schedule for that payment to equal, 600 towards principal, 600 towards interest. So now I'm just trying to be the bank because I'm just replicating what they do. So now I'm starting to sell a lot of these on 30-year mortgages, and people like think I'm crazy to do that. Like, wow, if I'm 60 years old and if I sell it on 30-year mortgage, I'll be almost dead. Well, here's the thing. They never pay you for 30 years. They're going to build on it one day. They're going to sell it maybe in 5 to 7 years. I've got one that they're now selling after 31 months, and I've collected almost $60,000 in interest. So It's powerful.
That is powerful. That's really powerful. That's what's attractive about this, because it seems like with relatively low cash out of pocket, you can build a cash flow generating. Everybody talks about, wanting to quit their W-2 job, right? Like, what's the fastest way is to get reoccurring revenue. And everybody's kind of like flustered, like, well, how can I get reoccurring revenue if I only have, 20 grand to start? It seems impossible. Really, it's not. You're just proved the point, right? Like, you got creative.
Wish I had 20 grand when I started.
Yeah. That is, and it actually gives me some ideas to like go find some people that are finding deals and I JV with them and do 50-50 rev shares, and they do all the work. I mean, I would do that in a second if it's, if the deal made sense and like we, the authentic track record or at least a good deal. So like if we're looking for a market 2 to 3 hours driving distance typically. Is there kind of like a threshold? I mean, we probably want a population of at least 8,000, right? Like you don't want to do too small of a town. I mean, when we go on to Redfin,
you're getting really technical. I just look where the demand's at, where stuff's selling, and I want to see clusters. Yes, you could probably get very analytical with it and that would work. I keep it that simple. I go where the demand is. First, I started in my own backyard. And then I kind of work through the mistakes. But if there's land selling in clusters and pockets, like I'm going to click on every one of those. Like say it's Redfin. I'm going to click on every single one of them and I'm going to write down, okay, this one was 10,000 square foot. This one was 1 acre. This one was 10,000 square foot. This one was half acre. This one was 10,000 square foot. Now I know the piece of land that's in demand. That's 10,000 square foot. Now I can go and look at whatever one of those 10,000 square foot lots sold for, 15,000, 16,000, 18,000. And I can add them all up. And let's just say I add 15 of them up and now I divide it by 15. I now know the average price of the most in-demand parcel size, which is 10,000 square foot. Now I know that it's going for roughly, let's just say $1.50 a square foot. And I want to get that land under contract at a good discount. I'm going to add maybe, let's just say like offer 75 cents a square foot. Now I'm getting it at 50 cents on the dollar. That's really, it's that simple.
What's the best software? Like, okay, so in my mind right now, I'm here in Las Vegas. There's Pahrump, which is about 50 miles away. And a lot of people are moving there. It's still rural. I forgot what the population is there, but I've always been saying that's a good place. There's a lot of people building homes. There's new builders building. Yeah. There's a lot of manufactured homes still. So people just want land. So where am I going to pull data? Where's the best place to pull data? Is there like a national kind of platform that's easy to use specific to land?
Yep. The landsharkslist.com. That's PropStream. It's just a 7-day free trial to PropStream, but you can get records for free and start mailing right now. And you can go, let's just say that area you just mentioned, you do exactly what I mentioned there. Check out Redfin, figure out the in-demand parcel size and only pull a list of that parcel size. You can start small and kind of just get the wheels turning with that. And another thing, like so many people, you mentioned W-2 job. I was running from, like people are motivated by running from pain or towards pleasure. I'm more from pain. That's how I was motivated. I wanted to get rid of my W-2 job, which was the military, because I honestly felt like I did not make decisions for my life anymore. I was told what to do, where to be, what to wear, how to look. And it took me 9 months to completely replace my expenses, which were almost 45, we're right at 4,500 a month. we had that coming in
And
passively.
what did you say? 2 months?
9 months.
Oh, that's phenomenal though. Like then we call that being 100%er. In a mastermind group I'm in, I always tell people the biggest goal is add up all your expenses, food, fun, rental, mortgage, all that stuff. What is that? So that was 4,500 for you at the time.
Yeah.
And once you achieve 4,500 of net passive income, we consider you 100%er, meaning all your debts are paid and your lifestyle's paid. So then the next goal is to become a 200%er, right? You get up to 10 grand or 9 grand. Wow. And then you do 100%er. Then you have enough reoccurring revenue where you can just use the surplus to reinvest into other assets, right?
Yes.
So I mean, that's just a simple way of looking at it. Like, it's not that we get overwhelmed, right? We get overwhelmed like, oh, I'll never be able to do this, and that. Obviously, you will probably, with the cost of like insurance, healthcare and stuff, you really need to be about 150% before you quit your W-2. But once you do that, boom, then you're golden, right? And then you just grow from there. So that's actually really encouraging. I think people hearing this right now or watching it in the future here, it's not that hard. Brent did this in 9 months, right? And so it is achievable, and he was still working full time when he did this. So, and then he just scaled it from there when he was able to go full time. And now he's at the point where he's got enough reoccurring revenue where he said, hey, I got a good amount of nuggets. I can teach this now and help people do the same thing, become financially free, which is kind of the reason why I started this podcast, to talk about financing, how you can leverage, how you can, create a finance, all the stuff that goes with it. Because that's what I do all day long, is I help people grow their portfolios, right? Like whatever, it's mostly real estate and business owners I deal with. Land is hard to finance, obviously, as you know, but yeah, it's not hard to finance if you kind of build the principle of OPM, right? There's a lot of people with trillions of dollars. There's trillions of dollars in retirement. They can become Bank of America for you and land on these, acquisitions of 2,000, 10,000, 15,000, because that's not a lot of money. You can use their dry powder for your acquisitions. So you really don't need money if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, you mentioned you would fund the deal, split 50%. I started a meetup in Colorado Springs, and I started this meetup with a friend of mine who was a real estate broker. We were doing deals together, and he's like, let's start a meetup, a real estate meetup at Third Space Coffee. Let's do it on the first Tuesday of the month. And it's still going, by the way, even though I don't live there anymore. But I was not ready. Like, I didn't know anything. Like, I was like, no, I'm too new. And he encouraged me to do it, and we did it together. And I started talking about my land deals that I was doing. And guess what? I attracted people like you, Beau, that said, look, I want to partner with you. And I partnered with one gentleman on over 100 and something lots. And basically we gave him 30% of the profit on those particular lots. Now he knows how to do this himself, and he's doing it as well. He started a couple other companies, but you will attract other people to do this with. You don't have to do it on your own shoulders.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think this is what people need to hear is like, hey, and let's face it, land is a lot less competitive. I mean, it's getting more and more competitive like everything in life, but it's a lot less competitive than like these fix and flippers and these rental property investors, right? Because these are like off-market properties. A lot of people that own land, they just sit there and they're like getting sick of paying the property tax. Like, I have a parcel sitting in a rural part of California, and it's like, I'm not doing anything with it. I should probably try to flip it right now. I've just been paying taxes on it. Like, okay, like, this is stupid. I got to do something with it. I got to sell it on terms or whatever, right? And so there's a lot of people like me that aren't in the investing space that say, I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to give it to you for $200. Just pay the transfer tax or whatever. So
I once bought a piece of land for a pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's all the seller wanted. And he wasn't local to us, so I had to Venmo him like $6. And I think he bought 2 packs with that. But his picture was actually a picture of a PBR can. I was like, what the world?
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, this is Beau Eckstein, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. I appreciate you checking out our channel. On this podcast, we talk about real estate, investing, financing, business lending, and acquiring and expanding your business. I'm sure you will find some videos here that will help you build your business empire. There's a lot to see. Take your time and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again. Let's talk about disposition now. So we know some lots make more sense to list with the local land specialist in the area, a realtor. But on the other dispos, are we putting them on eBay, or where's the sweet spot there?
I've sold a few on eBay, and then it kind of dried up for me, and I started paying those $35 listing fees. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not selling anything here. You mentioned signs already. I love selling land with signs because we get a lot of people that call in, and then guess what? Not everyone's going to buy that particular parcel, but you add them to your list to follow up with later when you have another one. Craigslist is doing well for us. Facebook buy sell groups and Facebook Marketplace. Now, there's one disclaimer about that. You're going to have to reply to 100 people before you sell one, because a lot of them are like, is this available? I like to have my virtual assistant reply to those people and say, yes, Beau, it is. Here's a direct link to our website. So once we get them there, they now get a pixel, and they're going to see my Facebook ads forever talking about the land we have available. What else? Landcentury.com. It's like $15 to list your first parcel of land. Those are, and by the way, the neighbors usually will buy it from you. So there's several ways you can dispo it. And people always ask me, well, what's the best? It's different in every area. Do everything I just mentioned: Facebook, Craigslist, signs, contact the neighbors. How do I get in touch with the neighbors? Well, there's things like batch skip tracing. You can look them up and actually call them on the phone. We have the neighbor checking out a piece of land we have in Texas right now.
That's sweet. No, I'm taking down. I'm putting notes down because this is good. This is funny because it's perfect, because I've always been talking about doing some of this, and I'll continue to buy my fourplexes and my duplexes. And, there's certain benefits to owning real estate, like the depreciation and, cost segregation and all that good stuff.
You can virtually pay no taxes if you buy enough properties or buy enough buildings, because we take the money from our land investing and put it into other cash flowing assets that give us cost segregation and depreciation. And then the mortgage company will lend us the money for it, and we can insure it. This is the perfect, it's amazing. God bless America that we can do this. So
your course, let's talk about your course real quick, or your coaching, whatever we want to call it. But so I go in, I sign up. Obviously, there's a fee. And then it's more of an instructional guide. So they're training videos, okay, step 1, do this, set up a website, a land listing website, step 2, or I probably get the list first and start mailing first, and then worry about everything else after. Walk us through, just in a high level, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm gonna take you as if I'm just gonna assume you know nothing about real estate. I mean, we have game wardens, we have a lot of military guys, people that are deployed or overseas that join the community, the land sharks community, via Wholesaling Inc. Yes, you already hit it on the head. The videos show you exactly what to do, so you can take it at your pace. We also do 3 support calls a week. Actually, technically, we do 2 support calls, one on Tuesday and Wednesday, and 2 Thursdays a month. And then we have the group where you can get your questions answered pretty much all day long. Because a lot of these courses, I used to be a course junkie. I used to go to seminars. Again, I used to max out the credit cards. I went to Fortune Builders. They taught me how to increase my credit line. And before I know it, I leave there $30,000 in debt. But what I always felt like those things lacked, which they were great training, don't get me wrong, I had to take the action. That's the only way it will work, is if you take the action. But where those guys fell short was, you got to be there to help them when they hit the roadblock, when they have that question, when they have that struggle, because we call it the 3 Ds: the doubt, distraction, disappointment. You're going to start doubting yourself week 2, or doubting me as the instructor, or, whatever, or this doesn't work for me. And then the distraction, we have YouTube now, we have all these podcasts and all these books and libraries, we'll change paths so quickly. We call it the shiny object syndrome as a visionary or entrepreneur. And then disappointment. We're always going to have disappointment when we're starting anything. It's going to always take us longer than what we hope. It's going to cost us more than what we think. So that's kind of the course in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, at the end of the day, this all comes down to taking action and actually doing it. I mean, I think the biggest step is okay, find your buy box, right, of what you're looking to buy, where you're looking to buy, what you're looking to buy, get the list. And then do you have some example letters that you send and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
where
absolutely.
we copy and paste.
I could even give it to your listeners if you'd like. We have all of it.
Yeah, okay. You can give it to us.
Heck yeah. Well, I'll tell you that postcard that I sent out, the first one, that I still use that postcard today, but if you go to the landsharks.com/postcard, there you go. It's yours for free. It'll send you an email with the postcard. We've merged to another letter that's really, really working well for us. And again, that's the landsharks.com/LOL. That's our land offer letter where people literally will sign it and send it right back to us, either mail or fax or email. It's really cool getting those and not having to even talk to anybody on the phone.
Do you guys have a preferred printer where it's like they're used to working with your students and yourself, where we can just kind of plug and play? I mean, I guess anybody can print them. I'm just wondering if there's services that are just easier to use than others.
Absolutely. I'm using a system called Pebble, which anybody can use it. It's really cool. They have like these letters I just talked about. They have the postcards I just talked about, but wait, they just got a check offer letter. It looks like the landowners are receiving a check saying, hey, we'll pay you $13,472 for your piece of land. And it's really cool. Like, it's getting a great response rate. But I don't really like the response rate. I want the conversion though.
Yeah. And so that's also an art too, is figuring out what your max offer price is. I mean, so I guess what we're doing when we're doing our Redfin searches, right? We're going, okay, these 10,000 square foot lots are trading at $7,500 retail. So that means I need to buy them at max of 2,500 or whatever, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of, is there like kind of like a rule of thumb you like to use? I mean, I know it all depends.
I generally, I took this from a lot of land investors use this, but I think it really originally came from Warren Buffett, and then it came from Warren Buffett's mentor, the guy that wrote The Intelligent Investor. I can't think of his name right now, but anyhow, it's called the 3x return, or the 300% rule. Basically, he talks about you want to go in and buy things at a discount. About if you can make at least 300% or 3x your money, you're always guaranteed a profit. So you've kind of built in that margin of safety, that hedge of protection. So some of these were literally 10xing our money with the interest we earned. So I'm only looking at doing that if I'm going to sell or finance the land. If I'm looking at like a beachfront lot and it will trade for $1 million, and if I have a buyer that will buy it all day long for $800,000, geez, I can offer 70 cents on the dollar and make a quick $100,000. So that rule of thumb works for me when I'm seller financing, but I don't avoid the parcels of land that I'm not going to make a 300% on, because I can assign that contract to a cash buyer.
Yeah, that's a good point. So on some deals, so you have multiple exits. Really, it's like you're gonna get in a contract, you're gonna close, and then you're gonna immediately turn around and list retail. The other is that you're going to sell on terms, and the other one is that you're going to assign. So there's really some multiple exits, because you never know what's going to happen. You might send a letter and this person has 10 lots and says, I'm not selling this one, but I'll show you these 3 over here.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So, well, that's freaking awesome. I mean, I think we got a mini course here. I think we got people excited. I know you got be excited to think about like actually doing it. And now in your group, do you have like a private group where people share deals and things like that, where they're, if there's a deal, somebody might, like, if I had a couple grand I wanted to invest, is there opportunities in that group that they're looking for some capital?
Yeah, we have some guys in the community that will lend on the deal, or we have some guys that are really good at getting properties under contract that need lending. So yeah, a lot of guys are doing deals together. We call it squatting up or collaborating. Absolutely. They do it all the time. It's not private. It's just in our group. And a lot of times it's funny, like, I do what I do best and find other people to help me out with the rest. And I try and encourage the community to do the same thing, because you might be really good at selling land, but you might be terrible at buying it. Or you might have tons of money, but you don't want to do all the whole mailing thing. And I used to do this in the beginning. People would come to me with packages of like 18 or 20 parcels of land at one time. And I'm like, holy cow, you got all these and it's going to fit my buy box. So I would have to go and find money to buy all 18 at one time.
Yeah, and even like what I realized too is like I bought this fourplex a couple months back, and it was in Pennsylvania. I bought it for $90,000. It's in a small town in Pennsylvania, and like I had the agent that helped me buy the property. She was also the listing agent. I had her bringing some tenants to me, and it was like pretty slow, right? And I'm like, screw this. Let's just go on. I never did anything on Facebook Marketplace. So I think like I got so many people that wanted to rent the place. I'm like, oh my God, like, because she was like old school. She just not somebody that's going to use Facebook Marketplace. But everybody, I mean, I got like 50, 60 inquiries in like the first 2 days.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking like, wow, there is a demand for this rental. And so it made me realize that, it's not that hard to put a listing up. And I'm sure there's strategies. You got to take good pictures, do the aerials with the, like, where you do the lines around it so people can see where the lot is.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I just want to touch on, and then I'll let you go because we'll probably have to have you back on the show at some point. But
I'd love to.
As far as due diligence, right? Like a lot of this is going to be kind of like buyer beware, do your due diligence. Like I don't know anything about whatever, right? We got to kind of cover our butts, just like where utilities are, that kind of stuff. Are you doing any of that investigation, or you just say, man, I'm not even going to look at that. I'm just going to sell it as is, or do you go find out where the closest tie-in to utilities are?
Absolutely.
How do you position yourself there?
Yeah, absolutely. We go off of a checklist, and I give the checklist out all the time as well. But a lot of this checklist is built on things that I found in my early days of buying land. And I say early days, I started this early 2016. I'm not going to date your podcast, but it hasn't been a long time. I'm still practicing this. I'm still doing it in my own business. So, in Florida, it's like, we got to make sure there's no wetlands, no gopher turtles. Like, who'd have thought like gopher turtles can stop us from building a house? Like, how do we find this out if I'm like 3 hours away? Well, I'm going to find the land specialist realtor. Who's the land specialist realtor? We'll go on Zillow once again, look at all the solds in that area, and you're going to see the same guy like Daniel Castaneda, this guy I use in Florida, keeps popping up. Daniel, can you go look at this? Are there any gopher turtles? How close are the power lines? Is there asphalt road, or is this dirt road, or is it landlocked land? How close is the water? Oh no, you got to use a well. There's no water out here. How close are the power lines? Because that could be a deal killer. Like if there's power lines 5 miles away, you're not paying for that to build you're definitely going to be off grid. So you might look into solar panels. Wi-Fi, huge. Since COVID started, is there Wi-Fi or broadband available? Now we don't have to worry about it because we have something called Starlink,
Yeah, no, that's good. So that's why it's good to focus on like one market to begin with, because you want to kind of like really hone in on utilities, what to look for. And then as you progress, how did that work for you? Like how many markets are you in? Are you just mostly in Florida, or can you kind of just walk us through like the markets you're in?
I started in El Paso County, Colorado, because that's where I currently lived. And then it's funny, after a few deals, I ended up going to Pueblo County because it was just like the neighboring county, and then Teller County, because you kind of expand. You'll run out of motivated landowners fairly quickly in a county. And then it's like something caught traction, and then we started buying some stuff in Florida, then Pennsylvania and Arkansas and Nevada, and just it turned in, and then Arizona, because people caught wind of like, okay, you want to look at this deal? And they were like, almost the leads were coming to us. Some were organically through our website, some were referrals. But I did start in one county, and I started building a buyer's list for that area, because here's the thing. You mentioned 60 something people messaged you on Facebook interested in that rental. Well, you said it was a duplex or a fourplex?
A fourplex, yep.
You can only rent to 4 of those people, right? Well, now you have 56 other people for the next fourplex that you buy, because you already know there's demand. So you're going to go and find more of those fourplexes. And then it just builds on itself. And then they're waiting for your next deal because you're offering the seller financing and the land. You're like filling both needs.
Yeah, no. And there's more and more people that are looking for those kind of land, where they want to maybe build a house eventually, or a lot of these markets you can still put modular or manufactured homes on. I think that's like the trend, that because people can't afford to buy site built homes anymore in most markets. So, people are looking, most of the people, they're probably buying this land with the thought that, hey, I'm going to move here eventually, whether they do or not. Maybe like 30% of the time they actually move there. But
yeah,
that's
being another land
yeah.
investor, he actually found the lot. This was also in El Paso County. He got the property under contract for $30,000, and we're like, okay, what do we do with it? Do we flip it? Do we sell or finance it? And then we looked across the street, and a house just sold, like a junky house sold for like $300,000. So we did exactly what you said. We went to the modular home dealership down the street, and we priced it out. We had a general contractor put it on there, and they connected it to the gas, which was the hardest part about the whole process, was the whole gas pressure thing. But long story short, we connected to the electric, and had a well there already. We made $97,000 on that lot and it took us 9 months to do it. And we got it lent by friends and family members. Like, all the money was lent by them. That's the only modular I've ever done, but it was really cool. It was really neat to see that.
Yeah, but that goes back to having multiple tools in your tool belt. Like, if you might have just flipped a lot, you might have made 10 or 15 grand. Now you guys split, close to 100,000. So
exactly,
I think having like the tools and knowing like, okay, this is what we're going to do on this property. This is what we're going to do. That's what it all comes down to. So this has been awesome. Really appreciate your time. And so it's your website is it The Land Sharks or landsharks.com?
You got it. The
Land
Sharks. Yeah.
TheLandSharks.com.
You got it.
Cool. Do you have your own podcast or anything?
Yeah, Beau, I actually am a host on the Wholesaling Inc Podcast. I love interviewing other land investors to just deep dive their success and drill down on how they're finding the deals and how they're selling the deals and how they're making money doing it over at Wholesaling Inc.
Cool. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this show. This was really good. I mean, listen, if you're investing in real estate in general, like houses and that kind of thing, you might want to look at land. You don't have to do land exclusively, but if you spent a couple hours a week building the list, and then everything else is automated as far as getting that letter in the hands of these property owners, you can do batch skip tracing. You can get all their contact information, maybe even their cell phone and email addresses potentially, and you can do that's the last question I should ask. Do you guys do any of that kind of outreaches? Mostly letters that are just crushing it for you guys?
Yeah, I really have the letters automated. We did start using textlandowners.com because we already own the list. Might as well text them as well. And it's something we've just started implementing. I have some deals in the hopper, but I have not closed anything from texting. I have a lot of students in the Land Sharks community that crush it with texting, but they're switching over to the mail because you can really set up your lifestyle. I'm finding texting is very time consuming.
Do you answer your own the landline when the phone rings, or the cell phone?
We try to. I have two acquisition managers. We really try and do live answer, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that's good. And on your postcards, do you have them going? Is your call to action phone call, or does it go to our website, or do you give them both options?
The postcard, we only give them a phone number, so that's where it's very intensive. Like we turn into land appraisers. I prefer with the land offer letter, where we send out a offer for the exact amount to the penny, and they sign that thing and mail it back to me, or email it back, or even sometimes they'll fax it back. That's the preferred method, because then I don't turn into a land appraiser talking on the phone to a bunch of people. But
you also, when they sign the offer, your signature is not on it yet, so you have a way to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm not signing it. There's so many ways to get out of it. It basically says if it doesn't meet my needs, we cancel, basically.
Very good. Well, guys, this has been awesome. I think we need to dive into this strategy and buy some land and flip some land, and I think actually be the bank is the best way, because also being the bank is the best for tax purposes, as opposed to flipping or assigning. You're not getting crushed on taxes too, and you're building long-term recurring revenue. But it just depends. If you're starting with nothing, then you got to flip or assign. If you got
Yeah.
if you got income coming in and you don't need the big chunks of change and would rather build like a 30-year portfolio of income stream, then you go that route. Probably do a combination as you start going, because you always need capital, but you can kind of like flip two, put one on long term, and then build it out. But anyways, this is exciting, guys. Go to thelandsharks.com. You can get more information about the coaching program. You can also go to thelandsharks.com/postcards. You can get a free postcard that Brent's using and his teams are using. And then thelandshark.com/LOL, which is the offer letter they're sending. So that's pretty cool. He gave us some free gifts. And guys, if you like it, sign up for the course. You can just tell Brent's the kind of guy that's going to like, he's not going to like put you through a video and not give you time with him. He's got calls 2 or 3 times a week. So that's good. So the accountability is there. And then you probably have a Facebook group or something for the members.
Yeah, I have an amazing assistant coach that's been through 5 real estate crashes, answering questions all day. He's Bill Rafter. Shout out to Bill. If it wasn't for him, man, he serves students. He's got a student first heart, and he still remembers how he started. And yeah, we answer questions all day long. So
last question. Are you excited with the kind of downturn? We're seeing a little bit of a downturn in certain markets. Do you think there'll be more buying opportunities over the next 12 to 24 months?
Absolutely. I'm now seeing land actually in the notice of default or the list pendants that I haven't seen that, since like a long time, not since 2016. So I am excited for it. I purchased a couple houses. Like sometimes you get house deals with your land deals, and we purchased about 8 last December, and we're writing checks to sell a couple of them. So once that's over, I'll be very excited. But, I feel bad for some of the people that kind of got caught up in it and they're losing money. But at the end of the day, Warren Buffett says, when there's blood in the streets, I go out and start buying. So if you can always be buying when others are selling and selling when others are buying, you're going to do well.
Yeah, I think Warren right now, his companies are sitting on like billions of dollars, and he's laughing at everybody else. I think he just knows, right? He's just sitting there. He's going to make some huge acquisitions over the next 24 months. I guarantee that. Like, he's going to just grow his billions to like trillions, or close to a trillion, maybe. He'll become one of the richest men. I mean, he already is, but he'll be like the top 2 or 3 in the world. Yeah. He's not far off right now. So yeah, he's smart. So that's what we got to do. But anyways, thank you so much. This was a great interview. Really enjoyed it. I know everybody else, we got people excited about land, and I don't know. Now I want to go buy land. So I gotta take action.
Do it.
I'm going to join your coaching program and take some action.
All right. Sounds good, Beau. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.